Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a painting of looking upward into autumn trees. So whether you're painting along with me or just watching for relaxation, thank you for joining me. Let's get started. We're going to start by using Pthalo Blue and Titanium White and a large brush, and we're going to mix them together, and we are going to paint the whole canvas light blue. This is going to be an undercoat. Not going to do a sketch for this painting. You'll see why in a few minutes. But we're going to just start by covering the whole canvas with light blue. Mix a little water with your paint here and there if you need to, if it's too thick. So I'm mixing a little bit of water, covering the whole canvas light blue. Now, after you're all finished with that, let it dry. So that has to be completely dry. Then we'll take Cadmium Red Medium, and we're going to use this for our leaves of our trees. This is going to be a background coat. Remember that light blue background is dry now, and so I'm putting on Cadmium Red Medium, and I'm just putting it on loosely, loose sort of shapes of leaves of trees as if we'd be looking up into the trees. And as one of my profs once said, every time you paint trees, you need to leave little holes for the birds to fly through. So you can see that I'm going to do that and mix them up, some larger areas, some tiny little areas, and just fill it in Cadmium Red Medium. Try to have a sort of a variety of the sizes that you're putting in. Have some areas that are more solid and dense, some areas with more little holes for the birds to fly through. Now, I'm going to take burnt umber, but you have to wait till the red is dry. Wait till that red dries, and then take burnt umber and a thinner brush. And we're going to begin to do some of the trunks of the trees. So I'm starting at the top about a third of the way over from the left, and I'm going to come down to the lower left corner approximately. So I'm just going to lay this on here. My cadmium red is not totally dry, but for the most part it is dry. And the trunks will get a little bit wider at the bottom, so they'll get thinner as you look up, as they go up into the sky. These trunks here are much closer. Do a couple of trunks on this side. So you can see that all these trunks are spread out further at the bottom, and they seem to be getting closer together as they move towards the top. I'm using a smaller brush to paint more trunks, and one of my other videos I did a little lesson on perspective, and one of the principles of perspective is that parallel lines, as they go into the distance, would meet at a vanishing point. And so ultimately, if these trees are roughly parallel, as they would go further and further and higher up, they would all come together at what is called a vanishing point. Now I'm using a small brush to do branches on the trees. Just here's a very small brush. And I'm going to continue to use burnt umber, and I'm going to be doing more and more branches. And some of these branches will be covered up here and there by more leaves that we put on. we're just putting them on for an undercoat right now. Do a lot of branches. Now we're making lots and lots of these little branches, and you might want to mix a little water in with your burnt umber if your brush is very, very thin and doesn't work as well. So now this is a glaze we're going to use, a glaze that is made by mixing gloss polymer medium and matte medium together. Use a little bit larger brush, and we're going to mix this glaze with Pthalo Blue. So a little bit of Pthalo Blue and mix it in with the glaze. Now you want to make sure that your undercoat of the red and brown and blue is all completely dry before you put the glaze on. So we have to wait until the underpainting is completely dry, and then we're putting on this glaze. And the reason we do this is because it just makes the painting much richer. We'll let some of these colors underneath show through as we keep working on the painting, and it's just a way to make the painting richer. So I use a glaze. You could use just gloss polymer and Pthalo Blue, or matte medium and Pthalo Blue, but gloss polymer is much more shiny, matte medium is flat, so I like the combination. Just gives it a little bit of a shine. And we want to cover the whole painting with this glaze. All right, there we go. When the glaze is dry, then you start on the sky, and you can see I added a little bit of light blue and white in, and I forgot to start recording, so that's why that is suddenly there. But I'm mixing Pthalo Blue and titanium white and a little bit of yellow ochre to get the colors in the sky. And I'm just using a small brush. I'm filling it in, but I'm not completely filling it in. I'm leaving different shapes to form the clouds. I'm filling in between the branches of the trees and leaves, so the sky is in the background, and it makes these leaves stand out even more. So I'm mixing Pthalo Blue and white, and I'm thinking of the clouds and the way they're moving behind the trees as I'm painting. So they're moving a little bit from upper left, sort of sweeping downward a little bit. Now I've got cadmium red, yellow ochre, white, and cadmium orange, and I'm going to do some work on the leaves now. I'm going to just start working on these colored leaves. Just start filling it in. Again, I'm not filling them in completely solidly. I'll leave areas where branches are showing through. I won't paint necessarily where all the tree trunks are going up. I'll paint over some of the tree trunks because there would be leaves in front of the trunks, but I'm going to let different parts of the background show through. Again, I'm going to come back later and work on it more, but this is just the start, putting down little dabs of paint. Mixing white and red and orange and yellow, and it's a little bit lighter at the top because that's where the light would be coming from the sky, so I'm keeping that in mind. Every time I do a painting, I think, okay, what direction is the light coming from? So it would be basically coming from above, so be a little bit lighter on the top. Okay, coming down here. Again, lots of little dabs because I love to paint in an impressionist style. So lots of dabs. I'm not filling it in solidly. Okay, now I'm adding some burnt sienna to my mix, because burnt sienna is a reddish brown. It's a little bit darker, and we'll be doing that down a little bit lower, again because the light is mainly coming from up above, so there'll be more reddish brown down below. Of course, we'll mix some up above too, and I'm mixing the burnt sienna with the other colors for the sake of variety. So there's going to be reddish brown, there's going to be reddish brown with it's a little lighter, there's going to be reddish brown with a little orange mixed in it, and so forth. Lots of little dabs. So you can see that down lower, generally, it's a little darker. And again, as I'm painting the leaves, I'm letting most of the tree trunks stand out. Painting some even lighter color up near the top. Now I'm adding lots of little tiny dabs. Add little tiny leaves here and there. The detail makes it a little more interesting, so just some areas are more solid, some areas have more detail. Now I'm going to mix Pthalo Green and yellow ochre and white. I'm going to add some green, because even though these trees are red, there would be still some other colors mixed in here and there. So I'm going to mix green, yellow ochre, white in various degrees, and add them in. Tiny little leaves, tiny details, light green. Fill in some of these areas down here. The reason I'm adding green is because very few things in nature are 100% pure color. So if you looked up into a tree that was red, you would probably see variations of that color. So these trees would have a little bit of green mixed in. It also just gives more interest to the painting instead of pure red leaves. And I'm doing the green for the most part down where there would be shade. So you can see in the lower right I have more green because it would be a little more shade down there since the sun comes from up above. Adding variations of that. Now I've got my burnt umber again. I'm going to go back and add more burnt umber. I'm going to mix a little bit of white with the burnt umber because I want to work on the trunks of the trees now, and they would not all be one solid color of brown. There would be some lighter areas. There would be some lighter areas in the trees, some darker areas, and I even will in a few minutes mix a little bit of Pthalo Blue into some of the tree trunks. But right now I'm just adding some areas of light brown by mixing white and burnt umber, because I want the tree trunks to even have variety in them. If they were just solid brown, it wouldn't look very good. So the whole idea is, here we go, there's some, so now I'm mixing some Pthalo Blue in to some of the tree trunks. And technically there probably wouldn't be phthalo blue in the tree trunks, but this is a painting, and by adding a little bit of phthalo blue into the tree trunks here and there, it makes it pop more. So you can see that when we do painting, we just keep working on it little by little, here and there. There's the phthalo blue again. Mixing it with white, and there's yellow ochre also, so this is a little bit more of sky color we're adding in. So just keep adding layer after layer to all the areas. It just makes it much more interesting. So keep adding layers into the sky. And by putting brighter areas, lighter areas behind some of these upper leaves, it makes them stand out more. See how it makes some of these branches stand out more and trunks stand out more. Also, just little tiny dots to, again, create more little holes in the trees. Adding a little bit more darker blue up at the top there. Just keep adding and varying. See, the light sky against the trees, darker trees, really makes them stand out. I'm going to add a little bit more light sky down near the horizon, because generally, looking at the sky, it's lighter toward the horizon. So I'm going to add a little bit of light color into the sky there, more detail. Just keep adding lots of little details here and there. Now I'm using my red and orange again, a very small brush to just keep refining it, sharpening it up, making some of the areas pop a little more. Tiny details, tiny leaves with the red and orange. As I've said in some of my other painting demonstrations, you start with the general and then work towards more specific and more detail. So I don't start with all the detail, just keep adding it in. And toward the end of the painting, I'm adding more and more tiny little areas of detail. We started large with big shapes, and now we're working with lots of detail. Little bit of red down here in the lower right, just catching the light. As we add more paint, the painting just gets more and more thick and intense looking and rich looking. All these colors and variations make it more rich looking. More and more detail. Using a very, very fine brush now for lots of tiny little details, tiny red and orange dabs of leaves. Lots of little leaves, tiny dabs. Tiny little dabs of light blue. Yellow ochre and green mixed together. And there it is. Thank you for watching this or painting along with me. Hope you had as much fun as I did.